Namaskar. Welcome to this third session of the 13th Adhyaya of Sri Bhagavad Gita. We start with our gratitude towards the Lord, with whose grace everything is possible. We pray to this Guru Shishya Parampara, through which this knowledge is preserved and transmitted for generations to reach us. I pay my respects to my Guruji, Pujya Guruma, with whose grace I am able to learn the scriptures and share this understanding with you. We start with a prayer. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So 13th Adhyaya, as you know, is the Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga, where Bhagavan describes the difference between the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna clearly. In the opening first shloka, Bhagavan clearly describes Idam Shariram Kshetra. So he says that this Idam, he describes Kshetra by the word Idam, means this, what you can see, what can be experienced, what can be seen, is the Kshetra, which is all its modifications, Savikara Mudayutam, all its elements and its modifications Bhagavan described. And then he also described that one who knows this Kshetra is the Kshetrajna Aham. The person, the Purusha who knows the Kshetra is the Kshetrajna, and on an individual basis it is the Shakshi, the Purusha, the Atma, but on a universal basis it is also called the Brahma. And to understand this Kshetrajna, Bhagavan says you need preparation of the mind, for which he described in 5 shlokas. He described these 20 eligibility for the self-knowledge, some of the Sadguna Sampatti, about 20 values he described. These are the moral values, which are life-changing values. And they're very, very important for all of us to imbibe in our life, so that we can become eligible for understanding this Atma Jnana. And to understand this, what we need, or what this values does to us, is that it helps us to mature our mind, so that the difference between our mind and the intellect reduces. And this is useful for all seekers, for everyone, even for all people. And what it provides us is the right kind of understanding. It gives us the right mindset. Understanding is the function of the buddhi. Mindset is the function of our mind, and karma, it is a function of our body and our limbs, so that we can do the right kind of actions by this right understanding, so that our personality becomes a wholesome, harmonious personality, where there is no visangata between the man, buddhi, sharira. Everything is one, yukta, as Bhagavan Shri Krishna calls it. And this is must for assimilating this Atma Jnana into our own self. So let us first see the summary of the first and the second shloka, where Bhagavan gives a summary of the Vedanta knowledge. Kshetra, he says, Idam, which can be experienced. This Jagata, this entire universe, this world, is something that we can see, we can experience directly. We can, experience it by our Indriya. And Bhagavan says that this Sharira, this body is also, which not just includes the Sthula Sharira, the gross body, but even the Sukshma Sharira, which includes the Mana, Buddhi, our Prana. All this is part of our body, and this also Bhagavan says is Kshetra. And then he says Kshetrajna is Aham, the one who knows this. This Kshetra, who can directly aparoksha anubhav kar sakte hai, jiska wo hai Kshetra. That is the Kshetra. And Bhagavan also says in the second shloka, the first line, he says Kshetragnam chapi mam vitti. All the Kshetra see me as the Kshetrajna in all this. And Bhagavan clearly says that not just Kshetra is what is knower of your body, but that itself is me when you see on a universal basis. So that proves the Mahavakya of the Upanishad, Aham Brahmasmi, that I am that, the one who is the seer of this body is in itself the universal Brahma. That is what Bhagavan Shri Krishna tries to tell us, that Atma is Paramatma, Jiva is Ishvara. I am the complete unlimited by my own Swarupa, and this is what I need to understand. So the knowledge of this world is called the Aparavidya. This world is nothing but Kshetra. And the knowledge of the Atman, the knowledge of the self, or the knowledge of the Brahman, is what is called as the Paravidya, which is worth knowing, which is Kshetrajna. And this is the knowledge, the Atma Jnana, where Bhagavan in Bhagavad Gita, in Upanishada, also is giving us this same knowledge, which is the one which is Gneya. And Bhagavan is going to tell us that it is the only one which is worth knowing. So these moral values can also be called in the Shastriya terminology as Dharma, and they are the general code of ethics, Samanya Dharma for all of us human beings, that what I expect from others, I should not do to others. For example, I don't want that somebody should hurt me, so I should be having ahimsa. Similarly, all this, Shama, if I want that others should forgive me for my mistakes, I should also be more forgiving to others. So all these values are simply what I don't expect from others, I should not do to others. So this is what is the understanding. If I am careful, then these moral values will definitely lead to peace of my mind. And if not, they can give me a lot of comforts in my life. They can give me wealth, possessions, a lot of respect, some position also, but will not give me peace of mind, which is essential to understand this Atma Jnana, or to assimilate that Atma Jnana in our life. So these ethical values need to be imbibed in our life for the change that has to happen in our life. And Guruji very commonly tells us that this is like a mirror for ourselves. We have to look within for this change. We don't have to see that these are important for the others, but they are more important for my change, because I'm the person who is going to be responsible for my change. I cannot be responsible for somebody else's change. So this Sadgun Sampati, moral life values, were described in the 7th to the 9th, 11th shloka. Amanitvam, the lack of self-respect, desire for self-respect all the time. Manitva means we all crave for somebody praising us, somebody giving us some appreciation, or we all desire for that all the time. So Bhagavan says we should come out of this attitude. Adambitvam, damba is pretense or some kind of a hypocrisy. We think something, we do something, we speak something, that is hypocrisy. So this damba, Bhagavan says, have a straightforward personality, don't have damba or pretense. Don't pretend. Ahimsa. Ahimsa, Bhagavan says, non-violence, non-hurting. That is mana, vachana, and with your words and action. We should have ahimsa towards all the beings. Shanti. Shanti means Shama, forgiveness, accommodativeness, being large-hearted. Arjavam. Arjavam means being very simple in our demeanor, in our endeavor, in our personality. Straightforwardness, what we think, we speak, what we speak, we do. That is a susangata between all our mind, body and actions. Acharya Upasanam. Acharya Upasanam means taking shelter of the Guru, doing Upasana of the Guru, Guru Bhakti, which is important, essential for understanding this Atma Jnana. Shaucham, purity. And purity is not just outside purity, but even inner purity, being auspicious, being pavitra, being clean in our mind. Stairyam. Stairyam means steadfastness, firmness in our resolves, in our decisions. Atma Vinigraha. Atma Vinigraha is taking control of our own self, our mind, intellect, and our body. So being in control of our own self, our personality. Indriyartheshu Vairagyam. So having Vairagya from all our Indriyas, because Indriyas are all Bahirmukha. They want to go out and take all these knowledge and, Vishaya Bhoga or Vishaya Sukha. It wants to go and enjoy this. But then by proper understanding, what is the importance of these Vishaya? What is going to give me? What do I really need? What I want to achieve? Can it give me this? This understanding will give me the Mahatma Buddhi in the Vishaya, in the Jagata will become less. And the Mahatma Buddhi in the Atma or this knowledge will increase, and that will help me to get out of these unnecessary, socializations, unnecessary contacts, love, attachments, and all these issues. So that is in itself is Vairagya, which is a very, very important part of our sadhana. Anahankara. Hankara is another big problem for all of us. The big kartrutva, the doership feeling that I am the doer, I am doing it, and this is always there in us, and that is something that we have to come out of which. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyati Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. So Janma, Mrityu, life, death, birth, death, Jara. Jara means old age, and Vyadhi. Vyadhi means diseases. Seeing the dukkha and dosha, seeing the pains of all this constantly in our life. So that means seeing the reality of life, that there is a lot of pain involved in the life. So that is the understanding here. Asaktihi, anabhishwangaha, putradara gruhadishu. Asakti means unattached. Being unattached, not getting too much of attachment. Love is good, but too much of attachment is not good. Anabhishwangaha putradara gruhadishu. We are more attached to our children, our spouse, our home, and all our close possessions. So we are very closely attached to all this, and that's why Bhagavan says here, Anabhishwangaha putradara gruhadishu nityam cha samachittatvam ishtha nishto papattishu. Means having a sameness, equanimity towards all that. Samachittatvam, having that equanimity in ishta nishta, whatever we like, dislike, whatever we get, whatever we achieve in our life, whether we like it or not, we must have that equanimity, that sameness of our attitude. Nityam, always we must follow this. And then we have seen all the details so far in the second session last time, and now we will be going towards the 10th and the 11th shloka. Mai chananya yogena bhakti charini. So we'll go to the 10th shloka and then the 11th. Mai chananya yogena bhakti charini vivitta desha sevitvam aratir jana sansadi. So this, the 10th and the 11th shloka are the values for the more serious seeker who wishes to progress on the spiritual path. So here Bhagavan says, Mai ananya yogena bhakti. Ananya bhakti, that is one word he is using, and avyabhicharini bhakti, that is another word that he has used. This means that being in constant connection with the Lord, with a one-pointed devotion towards the Lord. Vivitta desha sevitvam. Vivitta desha is a secluded place. If we enjoy being in a secluded place, we don't get alone or afraid, or we don't just keep on the TV or the music or mobile all the time. When we are in a secluded place, we are able to enjoy with our own self, able to face ourselves, see what we need to do, what needs to be done. So this is Vivitta desha. Arati jana sansadi. Jana sansadi means large group of people, social get-togethers. Arati means avoiding these going to large social gatherings, and we should not crave for this. It doesn't mean that we don't go to these social gatherings. We may go, but we don't have to be afraid of people. At the same time, we don't have to run away from people, but we have to understand what is the limit, where do we need to go, what is avoidable should be avoided. And Bhagavan has already said in the 12th adhyaya that Mad Bhakta Same Priyaha. Such a kind of, he also showed all these Jnani Bhakta ke Lakshana, the Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam. Starting from there, he showed all these Lakshana and repeatedly said that Mad Bhakta Same Priyaha, such a kind of my devotee is very, very dear to me. I love this devotee of mine. And that itself shows that Bhagavan, in here he says, this kind of a devotee who is Ananya Yogena Bhakti, Avyabhicharini Bhakti, this kind of a one-pointed devotion for whom God itself is the first priority and the only priority. Is not that he is using God to attain something else in the world, but he is using all the worldly objects to attain his final goal, that is Almighty. That kind of a devotion is what Bhagavan wants from us, and that itself makes us adhikari to understand this Atma Jnana. So there is a very great relationship between Bhakti and Jnana. You can see it here in this same Gita-ji, 12th Adhyaya is devoted completely to Bhakti. But in the 13th Adhyaya, Bhagavan talks about Jnana. So Bhakti makes us adhikari for the Jnana. And that's why Bhakti has a very, very important role to play in our life. And that itself makes us, eligible, suitable for this Atma Jnana. So once this is done, this adhikaritva is then what happens. The next step Bhagavan describes. Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam Etach Jnanamiti Proktam Ajnanam Yadatonyatha. So finally, Bhagavan now takes us to the main steps of the spiritual journey, which is also called the Jnana Sadhana, which is the final destination before we achieve the Atma Jnana. What are those Antaranga Sadhana, which are called in in the Grantha, in the Vichar Sagara and other Grantha, which are called Antaranga Sadhana, which are very close to Atma Jnana. Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam. Pursue the study of the self-knowledge on a very regular basis. Adhyatma Jnana is Atma Jnana, and this understanding of Atma Jnana is only obtained from the Upanishada and other Vedanta Shastras. And if we do it Nityatva, Nityatva means being on a regular basis, we do this. And the three sadhana which are described in the Vedanta for understanding or obtaining Atma Jnana are Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana. So we'll just see in slight details what it is. Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam, keeping the benefit, Tattva Jnana Artha, constantly in our mind. Artha means the Prayojana or the final moksha, the fruits of this Atma Jnana, the benefit of understanding this knowledge, constantly keeping this in our mind. And Bhagavan says, Etad Jnanam iti proktam. These values in itself are the real knowledge. Bhagavan says, in his view, iti proktam, he says, let me tell you, Arjuna, that these values itself is Jnana. And he says, Ajnanam yadata anyatha. Everything else, everything that is contrary to this values is Ajnana. So in essence, if Amanitvam is Jnana according to Bhagavan, then Manitva, having a lot of praise, having a lot of desires for somebody's praise or appreciation itself is a Ajnana. Similarly, Ahimsa is Jnana and Himsa is Ajnana. Anahankara is Ajnana and Ahankara is Ajnana. So that is the vision of the Lord. That's what Bhagavan says here. All these values are Jnana in itself. So Jnana, it's also called Prama in Shastra, and the ways or the means to achieve this Jnana are called the Pramana. So Pramana, any knowledge is obtained only by this Pramana. So this sadhana to which we obtain the Jnana is Pramana, and that Jnana or that knowledge can be of the worldly objects or it could be the Atma Jnana. So Pramana is essential. And in Shastra there are 6 ways, there are Shat Pramana, 6 ways to know, to understand, to get the Jnana. The first is Pratyaksha Pramana, that is through our Indriya. And most of the knowledge that we obtain of the world during our life is through this Pratyaksha Pramana. Eyes, like Chakshu, is the Pramana for the vision, for the Rupa, for seeing the color, for seeing the Rupa. Chakshu is the Pramana. So similarly, Shotra is the Pramana, the ears for understanding, knowing the sound, the knowledge of the sound. Similarly, Tvagendriya is for the touch, Granendriya for the smell, and Rasanendriya for the taste. So all these are our Indriyas, the Pancha Granendriyas, through which we get all the knowledge from the outside world by this experience, direct experience. And we say that this is true because I have seen it. Because when we give so much of importance to what I have seen it, definitely it means that I know that this is the reality. The second is Anumana Pramana, inference. So for example, we see a smoke, we think that there may be some fire somewhere. So that is Anumana Pramana. The third is the Upamana Pramana. Through similarity, we get the Jnana, like the fox and the dog. They may look very similar, and that's why from far off distance, we may not be able to differentiate whether it's a jackal or a dog, because they are, similarity, and that's why we may infer one from the other. Similarly, Arthapatti Pramana, which is very similar to the inference of the Anumana Pramana. Anupalabdhi Pramana, which gives the knowledge of by abhava, by absence of that object. And finally, Shabda Pramana. Shabda Pramana, we get a lot of knowledge of our world by Shabda Pramana, the worldly knowledge. For example, somebody says, oh, this person is this. He introduces the person, that this person is so and so. And that's how from the Shabda we get the Jnana that, oh, okay, you are this person. I have heard a lot about you. So this is how the Shabda, worldly knowledge can be achieved by Shabda Pramana. But even Vedanta Shabda are important. Those are called Alaukik Shabda. Worldly Shabdas are called Laukik Shabda. And this Vedanta Shabda also can be a Pramana. Now, the question is, which is for the worldly objects? Yes, we saw that these are the 6 Pramanas through which we can get the knowledge of the world. But when it comes to the Atma Jnana, what is that Pramana through which we can get the Atma Jnana? And Shastras, or our scriptures, Vedanta and Upanishads tell us that the Shabda is the Pramana. But this Shabda is not the regular Laukik Shabda, worldly Shabda. But this Shabda is a Shabda of Vedanta and Upanishada, which is the Pramana. By this Shabda is already there, but everybody does not get this Atma Jnana. Why? Because it has to be used by the learned Guru who has learned this knowledge through a parampara, who is not Kshatriya but even Brahmanishta, who is realized, who has learned it, and who uses the Shabda as a pramana, the Shabda of the Vedanta and the Upanishada. And then even the Shishya has to be Adhikari. He must have a pure mind. He must be a, we have seen all these Mulya, Bhakti, everything must have gone through, and he must have a pure Antakarana. And then he has to listen, Shravana, listen to this Vedanta Shabdas, Vedanta Vakya from a learned Guru. And this Shravana is also very important. How we do it? It must be intently, it must be very, very with a lot of concentration. It must be regularly. It's not once in a while. If we listen, we will get this Jnana. It has to be done constantly every day, and it has to be done with an open mind, because we have a lot of fixed ideas in our mind. If we close our mind and listen to this, we will not understand. We have to have an open mind to understand what Vedanta or what Upanishad is trying to tell us. And this Shravana tells us what is our goal, what is Sadhya, and what are the ways to achieve this goal, what is called a sadhana. So this Viveka, the initial Shravana does this Viveka between the Sadhya and the sadhana. And we need to do this Shravana with a lot of faith in our scriptures, in our Guru, and with a firm resolve that whatever is Shastra, especially the Vedanta and the Upanishad is telling us, Shruti Grantha is telling us, is the truth. We must have an open mind to understand what it's trying to tell us. And the faith in the scriptures is very, very important, especially in the beginning of the Shravana, because there will be lots of doubts and we will not be able to pursue this Shravana without having the faith in the scriptures and the Guru. And the way how this is done is that the Shishya follows each and every word that the Guru speaks. It is said that he walks with the words of the Guru, understands the meaning of the words and then the meanings of the sentences, the Mahavakyas finally, and that is how, and we have to keep on listening till we get the clarity of this Jnana. And this has to be firmly done every day, regularly, Nitya, and then only we can reach to this Atma Jnana. So this is the method which is described in our scriptures. So Shravana is what we will know by Shravana, what is the truth, what is given, what are the concepts espoused in the Vedanta and the Upanishad. It will tell us what is the truth, and the next process is to assimilate this truth in our own life so that our life can become different. And for this we have to do a lot of manana. We have to think, we have to manana, matlab, we have to keep on reflecting on this knowledge, on this truth, and there will be a lot of doubts which are created because of our purva sanskaras and what all we have heard so far. And this has to be cleared by logic, and this logic that is used is also according to the Shruti Tarkatmaka. We have to clear these doubts. Questions are definitely welcome in Vedanta. Understanding and Samajhdari is given a lot of importance, but as important as Samajhdari, faith is also important. Both look contradictory to each other. Faith means that you don't ask questions. It is not like that. In Vedanta, you need faith on one side so that you pursue on this, you build on this, and then whatever are the doubts, you ask questions and get it cleared by the Guru. So this is how it happens. And the main focus or emphasis in Vedanta is the brain, our understanding, our Samajhdari, so that is important, because only then the real change can happen, when the understanding becomes different. Nididhyasana is also called a Vedantic type of a meditation, and here there are lots of Purva Sanskara which are very drad, very firm, ingrained in ourselves. We have to change those Sanskaras by constantly doing meditation of whatever is given in scriptures, and we have to see our Atma Swarupa. We have to see what is the difference, this Viveka that is described in the Gita Ji and Upanishada, the Viveka between Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Viveka between Prakriti, Purusha, Viveka between Jada, Chetana, Viveka between Atma and Atma. All these Viveka we have to see during our meditation, and this repeatedly reminds us to create a new kind of an understanding within us, which will help us to assimilate this Atma Jnana in our life. Tattva Jnana Artha Darshanam, keeping the benefit of the self-knowledge constantly in our mind, so that we must know what is the goal finally, what are we going to achieve, and what we are going to finally achieve is nothing but eternal freedom we all want to be free. We all want to be free from a lot of our limitations, lot of our dukkha, lot of our, limitations to our body, our limited capacity of our mind, our life, our lots of other things that we feel helpless about. We want to be free from all this. And knowing the self, understanding ourself, getting this Atma Jnana gives this highest benefit. It gives us this moksha or mukti, which is an eternal freedom from all of our limitations. And we are trained to not to do anything without knowing the benefits, and that's why this benefit, this must be kept in our mind. The fruits of knowing ourselves is something that we always yearn. Ever we want to be happy, we want to avoid all kinds of pain, we want to be completely swatantra, independent. We don't remain dependent on anyone. And this we can achieve only if we see this goal daily and try to achieve this with our efforts, the sadhana, jnana sadhana. And we must constantly have that jignasa, that desire constantly. When can I become free? By positively thinking, contemplating on this, we can pursue on this spiritual journey. And we need a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of patience. Both these things also look quite contradictory, enthusiasm and patience. But both these are very, very essential. We need to be enthusiastic to reach our goal. But at the same time, we must have a lot of patience because it takes years, sometimes not just years, but many, many lives to achieve our goal in this spiritual journey. Next shloka. Gneyam yattat pravakshyami yajnatva mrutamashnute anadimat param brahma nata sattanna saduchyate. Now, Bhagavan Shri Krishna starts the section on the Atma Jnana. He pledges to Arjuna that I'm going to tell you the Atma Jnana. And he says, Yat Gneyam tat pravakshyami. What is worth knowing? Gneyam means what is worth knowing. Tat pravakshyami. That I'm going to tell you very clearly. Pravakshyami. Vakshyami means telling. And pravakshyami means telling very clearly. So clear I'll make it to you, Arjuna, that you will know the clear differentiation and you will achieve your goal. That is what Bhagavan is telling Arjuna. He says, Yat gnatva amrutam ashnute. So by knowing this knowledge which I am going to tell you, amrutam ashnute, you will attain your immortal swarupa. Our own swarupa is immortal swarupa. Bhagavan has already said, Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavaka. Our own swarupa is that ajanma najayate namriyate va kadachita. So this swarupa, if we understand, then we achieve the immortality that we all desire completely. Anadimat param brahma says, which has no beginning. It is anadi, there is no beginning. And which is param, which is the highest, which is the shreshta, which is the best of all, and which is nothing but Brahma, which is imperishable, because it is anadi. There is no birth, there is no change, there is no beginning, and that's why it is avyaya and it is imperishable, it is avinashi. Na sat tat na asat iti uchyate. He says, which cannot be called as sat, which cannot be called as asat also. Now what is sat and what is asat? Let us understand. Sat is where there is an existence which can be known, which can be seen, which can be, by our indriya, which can be known or experienced. This tattva, this Brahma tattva itself, we cannot see. It is avyaya, it is avyakta, we cannot see it. And that's why we can't say it is there immediately. Everybody doesn't know it. And that's why it is said that it is na sat. It is not sat because it is not clearly seen. It is also not asat. Asat means that something which is non-existent is asat. We cannot say that Brahma Tattva is non-existent because it is our own direct experience that we experience everything, we know everything, we understand everything. And this Chaitanya Tattva is there. It is my own aparoksha anubhuti. I cannot say it is not there. And that's why it is, we cannot call it that it is na asat. It is not asat also. So it is neither sat because it cannot be seen. It is neither asat because we cannot say it is non-existent. And that's why it is called na sat, na asat. Sarvata panipadam tata sarvato kshishiro mukham sarvata kshutimalloke sarvam avrutti tishtati. And here Bhagavan Shri Krishna is describing the Atma Tattva, Brahma Tattva or Chaitanya Tattva. He says Sarvata panipadam tata, all the hands and feet belong to that Tata. Tata means that Tattva. Uh, to him, to the Lord, to the Brahma Tattva, to the Chaitanya Tattva, everything, because all hands and feet, everything works because of that Chaitanya. Chaitanya is a Shakti from which everything works. Sarvata Kshishira Mukham, all the faces, all the sides, because it's everywhere. It is Sarvatra Vyapta, all the sides. Sarvata Shrutimat, whose ears are on all the sides, because ears, Shotra, also work because of that Shakti, the Indriya Shakti, which is the Shakti of the Chaitanya. So everything is because of that. And Sarvam Loke Avrutya Tishtati, it in all these lokas, it pervades all these, not just these loka, but it pervades all the lokas. So everywhere it is there. Tishtati means it is there, sthita, it is without any motion, it is there, tishtati. And that is how it pervades everything in this world. So that is what Bhagavan is saying. He also further describes this tattva, Sarvendriya Guna Bhasam, Sarvendriya Vivarjitam, Asaktam Sarva Brutchaiva, Nirgunam Guna Bhoktrucha. So Bhagavan is describing this Brahma Tattva with using some contradictory words. And this is how Vedanta uses these contradictory words to describe something which is beyond words. Brahma Tattva, Atma Tattva, Atma, Chaitanya is something which words cannot describe, because it is through which the words have the capacity to describe. So words cannot describe something that is, is similar to what is that, mind cannot know something that is the reflection of the mind itself. And that's why Brahma Tattva is something that cannot be described by words. And that's why this is the technique that Vedanta uses, that it uses contradictory words, and then and that meaning will come up in the mind of the Shishya. Sarvendriya Guna Bhasam, it illuminates all the attributes, the guna of the senses. Indriya has all the gunas, and the illuminator or the knower of all these gunas, whether somebody is having a Sattva Guna, somebody having a Rajat Guna, somebody having a Tamo Guna, somebody having the higher Sattva, somebody having lower Sattva, all these up, downs, all these guna, somebody is the knower of all this, somebody knows. So that knower is the Brahma Tattva, Kshetrajna. Cha Sarvendriya Vivarjitam, and it is devoid of all the senses, because Indriya is, Karyanvita, it is in karma, it is in motion, whereas this Tattva itself is Akarta, it is having no motion, and that's why it is devoid, it is Vivarjitam of all the senses. This Tattva is Asanga from this Indriya, and it is devoid of all the senses. Asaktam, this Tattva is Asanga, Asattva. It is unattached to all the beings. So it is there, it pervades everything, but it remains unattached. Sarva Brut Cha Eva, it means it illuminates all the beings. Sarva Brut means it is the sustainer or nurturer or illuminator of all the beings, because it gives the Satta Spurti. It gives to all the beings so that they can do all their work. Cha Nirgunam Guna Bhoktru. Nirgunam means it is devoid of all these three gunas. It is said that Jagata is Trigunatmika, Maya is also Trigunatmika, consisting of all the three gunas. But Brahma, Chaitanya, is Nirguna. It does not contain any gunas. There are no gunas, there are no attributes, there is no increase, ups and downs, there is no up and down. And Guna Bhoktrucha. Guna Bhoktru means it is the knower of all the gunas, because all these gunas, somebody knows this, and that's why this Tattva is the knower of all these gunas. Bahirantascha bhutanam acharam charamnevacha sukshmatva tadavigneyam durastham chantike chatata. Again, Bhagavan is using these contradictory words to describe the Tattva, so that it will produce some meaning in our mind. It will just, that words will go to a particular limit it has, and then it will leave there, and then the other word will fill at the gap, so that the entire Tattva becomes clearer to us. Bahi antascha bhutana. Bahi antascha bhutana means it is present within the bodies and it is present outside the bodies. Now that limit which is decided is based on our own perception, in our own manyata, in our own understanding, that everything that is within this skin of this our body is something that we call as inside, and whatever is outside this is outside. But in fact, in reality, according to Vedanta, the ultimate principle of the Vedanta There are no such divisions. It's all because of this upadhi, this sharira. As we understand the antakarana upadhi, because of that we understand that this is outside and this is inside based on that upadhi. But in reality, there is no such discrimination. Everything is Brahma. But here, it's Bhagavan is trying to make us understand that it is everywhere. It is not just outside, but it is inside also, and it is everywhere in all the beings. Acharam charam evacha. It pervades all. Achara. Achara means where we don't see any movement or motion, the non-living objects. And chara. Chara means where we see the motion or living beings, living objects, or it pervades everything, the non-living as well as living objects. Now this is something we need to understand, because since a child, as we have understood what are living beings and what are non-living beings, we understand that wherever we see motion, we call them living beings. So means essentially humans and all other species, where we see all the birds, all the animals, all the reptiles, everywhere where we see motion, we call them living beings. Everywhere objects where we don't see any motion, even the nature, prakriti, mountains, all this where we don't see any motion, we consider them as non-living beings. That is how we have understood. Vedanta gives a very different understanding to us. Vedanta tells us that this Brahma Tattva pervades everywhere. Chaitanya is everywhere. It is there in living as well as non-living beings. But how do we see motion? Vedanta tells us that it is because there is abhivyakti, there is a manifestation of these Chaitanya because of Antakarana. Antakarana is a part of our Sukshma Sharira which reflects this Chaitanya and makes the motion possible. But in essence, the body and the Sukshma Sharira itself is Jada. Just like the nature and all its objects, similarly our body, the Sthula Sharira and the Sukshma Sharira is Jada according to Vedanta. And it gives this motion, this Chaitanya, this life is given only because of the Chaitanya. So when there is a reflection of the Chaitanya, the life goes on. The moment there is no reflection, the life comes to a halt. So it's only the difference is that in the objects, there is no such Antakarana or Sukshma Sharir so that the Chaitanya becomes manifest. But the Chaitanya is definitely there everywhere in the living, non-living objects, in whatever we call. So this is the understanding. It's a very different perception or understanding that Vedanta gives us. Sukshmatvat tad avigneyam. It is not known to all of us, avigneya. It remains hidden to us if we are not knowing this. Why? Because it is very sukshma. It is very, very subtle. It is sukshmat sukshmataram. That is what Kaivalya Upanishad tells us. It is very, very sukshma. And that's why we don't know it. Generally, in our mind, what we believe is that something that is very subtle occupies much lesser space. But Vedanta tells us that whatever is sukshma is more vyapta, it is more vyapaka, means it is more vast. Whatever is subtle is more vast. That is what Vedanta tells us. And there are very simple common examples that it gives us to understand this principle. Say for example, ice. Ice cube is the solid form of the water, which occupies lesser space. When it becomes more sukshma, subtle, or the liquid form, which is more sukshma form, it becomes water. It occupies a slightly larger space. And when this water becomes a vapor, it is a more sukshma or a more subtle form of the water, but it occupies a larger space. So this example makes it very clear that the more subtle is the tattva, the more vyapaka, more vast, it occupies more space. So this is how we can understand that this tattva, Brahma tattva, which pervades everything, is very, very sukshma, it's very subtle, and it's very, very vast. It is very vyapaka, beyond the imagination of the human mind. Tad durastam cha antikecha. That means it is very far and it is very near. So this is very contradictory. How do we understand it is very far, it is very near? A normal person like us, we will not understand what it tries to tell us. Only a learned guru can make us understand what it means. So for a person who does not see this, does not believe in this, does not know this, does not have any concept about this, for that person it is very, very far, because we can't see it, we can't experience, we don't understand. For a person like that, it is very, very far. For a person who knows this, has understood this, has realized this, for the person who has understood that this is the tattva, for that person it is very, very near, it is very close, because he has sakshat aparoksha anubhav. He has the direct experience of this tattva. He knows For a learned or a gnani, he knows that this is the tattva. So for him, it is very, very near. So that is how Vedanta tells us. And the same shloka indifferently is mentioned in Ishavasya Upanishad. It says, Tadejati, Tannejati, Taddure, Tadvantike, Tadantarasya Sarvasya, Tadu Sarvasyasya Bhahyata. This is a shloka of the Ishavasya Upanishad, which tells us the same thing, that ejati, where you see any movement, it is there. When you see there is no movement, it is there. It is very far, it is very close, it is inside, it is outside, it is everywhere. So this is how the tattva is described in the Upanishad also. Next shloka. Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktamiva cha sthitam bhuta bhartrucha tajgneyam grasishnu prabhavishnu cha. So here Bhagavan is again describing the Chaitanya or the Atma Tattva and says Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu. It is one in all the bodies. It is Avibhaktam. Avibhaktam means it is undivided. It is one. It is one in amongst all the bodies. Vibhaktam iva chastitam. But it appears that it is divided, because we commonly see that every person is different. Every person has a different, swabhava, his nature, personality. They work differently. And we believe that there is not just one soul, but there are many, many souls. They are all divided. So Bhagavan here very clearly says that in all these bodies may see many, you may see many bodies, but the tattva is one, undivided in all these bodies. It clearly says Avibhaktam, though it appears that it is divided, but it is not in reality. And Bhagavan says, Bhuta Bhartrucha Tajgneyam, know that the same tattva is, which is worth knowing, Gneyam, the one which is worth knowing, is the same, which is the Bhuta Bhartru, which is the nurturer or the sustainer of all the beings. When we say nurturer of all these entire universe and the beings, we invoke in ourselves Lord Vishnu, who is in the same form as the nurturer or sustainer of this world. Grasishnu. Grasishnu means destroyer. Is also the same tattva, same Brahma, same Ishvara is the destroyer of the individual self as the destruction or mrityu, or on a universal self as the pralaya. Prabha Vishnu, and the creator of the self, creator of this Brahmanda, creator of this universe. When we say Brahmaji is the creator, Shiva is the destroyer, and Vishnu is the nurturer, they are all one and the same. Brahma Tattva itself is one. And when we say that this is the nurturer, we call it Vishnu. When we say he is the destroyer, we call it Shiva. When we say he is the creator, we call it Brahma. So God is one according to our Vedanta Shastra. Only the way we see them, it's different function, different manifestation, different purpose, different avatars, different incarnations. We see them, the differentiation. Otherwise, there is only one Brahma Tattva, which is the eternal self. Jyotishamapi tajyotihi tamasah paramuchyate jnanam gneyam jnanagamyam ati sarvasya vishtitam. So Bhagavan again is describing the Brahma Tattva. He says, Jyotishamapi tajyotihi. It is the light of all the illuminating objects, like the sun. We know that sun illuminates everything. When it arises, there is darkness is gone and light is there everywhere. But what illuminates the sun? What gives that energy to the sun? And this Brahma Tattva is that energy which illuminates the sun. Tamasa param uchyate. It also illuminates the ignorance, tamasa, ignorance or jnana, because darkness is antithesis to the sunlight, but ajnana and jnana both can be illuminated by Atma Tattva. Atma Tattva illuminates not just jnana, but even it illuminates ajnana, because ajnana also I know that I am not knowing this. That ignorance also I understand, and that's how we understand that Atma Tattva illuminates ignorance also. Jnanam, Gneyam, Gnanagamyam. One calls three things. Gnanam. Gnanam, he already said that these values, Sadguna Sampatti, they are the Gnana itself, virtues and values. He says Gneyam, what is worth knowing, this Atma Tattva, this Brahma Tattva, which he has already described in the few last 4 shlokas. And Gnanagamyam. Gnanagamyam means what you achieve by this Gnana. What are these fruits of this understanding, this Atma Gnana, which is the moksha, which is the mukti. He says all these three things, Bhagavan says is Hriday Sarvasya Vishtitam. It is there ingrained in the heart and inside the heart of each and every being. So it is all inside us. Bhagavan is telling us clearly that we don't have to look all these outside. All this is inside us, the virtues, the sadguna, values. We know this. We have to just bring it out. This Atma Tattva, it is all our own self. It is the Swarupa of our own self. We have to understand this. And the fruits of all this, moksha, mukti, we are already all mukta. We have to know that we are mukta, we are not bound. There is no bandhana. All this is bhranti. We have to understand this. That is the part of the spiritual journey. And it is said that this journey is a praptasya prapti. It is only by gnana that we can know this. We already achieved this. We already are there. But we have to know this. We have to understand this. So gnana, what it does is praptasya prapti. Something that we already have has to be known. Whereas karma gives us apraptasya prapti, which something which we don't have. Karma can make us achieve those things. But with gnana, we already have it and we have to understand this. And this is what is the understanding. Iti kshetram tatha gnanam gneyam choktam samasataha madbhakta etadvignaya madbhavayopapadyate. So Bhagavan is telling Arjuna, so far I have told you in brief Kshetram, a brief about Kshetra. Kshetra already says idam, that world and this entire Shrushti, this body, Sthula Jagata, Sthula Sharira, Sthula and Sukshma Sharira, everything. He says Gnanam. I told you about the Gnana, the virtue, Sadguna, Sampati with which you can obtain this Atma Gnana. He says Gneyam, this Atma Tattva, Brahma Tattva, all these three things I have already told you in brief. Choktam Samasataha means in brief I have told you about all this. Madbhakta, my devotee. Bhagavan is telling that one who is my devotee is the Adhikari, Ananya Yoga Bhakti and Avyabhicharini Bhakti, Etad Vignaya, who knows this, understands this clearly, the difference between Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Gnana and all these Gnana Gamya. He says, what is the fruit, what is the benefit he gets? Madbhavai Upapadyate. He attends my own undivided self. Madbhava means we can achieve this Swarupa of the Lord itself, our own Atma Swarupa. When we understand, when we know, we become one with the Paramatma Swarupa. That is what Bhagavan is telling. He says, Madbhava Upapadyate. So bhakti and devotion is a very, very important thing for any seekers on any path. Bhakti is a very important thing because it helps us to develop this yogyata, eligibility. But it does take a long time. It is a long sadhana where it starts with karma, karma yoga, dharma, values, putting it into mind, and then going on to bhakti, and then going on to dhyana, and finally going to the gnana. But bhakti, Bhagavan says, is not just doing some puja, archana, or some lighting a lamp in morning or praying to the Lord. That itself is not bhakti. In Bhagavanas, Lord Krishna's vision, bhakti becomes matured when it attains more vastness, when it becomes more vyapta. We try to see Bhagavana or God not in just one idol in the temple, but we try seeing Bhagavana everywhere, in all the beings, in all the objects, in all the relations, in all the things of this world. If Sarvatra, if we can see this Ishvara Darshana according to the Lord, this is the vastness, this is the maturity of the bhakti. And this requires a very pure mind, and this is for which we have to do our sadhana to achieve samatva, equanimity, to develop this abheda buddhi, to see the abheda tattva in all that there is a bheda bhinna jagata, in all these vivid or varied manifestations, varied situations, varied objects, varied natures, colors, and all these different swabhavas and everything. We have to see that one tattva and the nimitta buddhi, where we understand that I am just the nimitta, I am just the instrument in doing whatever is I'm doing it is through the Lord. He's getting this done through me. He is the one who is doing it through me, who is the one who is allowing me, making me, and making me an instrument to do this. Jignasu Bhakta, such a kind of Jignasu Bhakta who is samarpit to the Lord, who is having surrender bhavna to the Lord, who sees the ichha, who sees the ichha or the Lord's wishes everywhere. For him, the raga dvesha becomes shitila, his kartrutva bhoktura, his ahankara bhoktrutva also becomes nullified, and then he is the right kind of a devotee eligible for this Atma Jnana. In the next shloka, now Bhagavan starts describing the Purusha and the Prakriti. He shows the Viveka between Purusha and Prakriti. Prakrutim Purusham Chaiva Vidyanadi Ubhavapi Vikaranshcha Gudanshchaiva Vidhi Prakriti Sambhavan. So Bhagavan talks about two Prakriti and Purusha Viveka. He says Prakriti is the Maya and Purusha is the Jiva. He says Vidhi Anadi Ubhav Api. Know that both of these, Prakriti and Maya, they both are Anadi. They both have no beginning. And all the Vikara, Vikaranscha Gunanscha Eva. Vikara, all the modifications and all the Guna, all the attributes, characteristics that we describe, they all Vidhi Prakriti Sambhavan. Know that they all arise from the Prakriti. So Bhagavan is now making a Prakriti and Purusha Viveka to Arjuna. Prakriti Purusha Viveka, Bhagavan also described in the 7th Adhyaya, when in 2 shlokas he described the Apara Prakriti, the Ashtada elements, the 8 elements of Apara Prakriti described, and he says that this is what is nothing but Maya, Jad and Kshetra. And the Para Prakriti says Jiva Bhutam Mahabaho Yayedam Dharyate Jagata, which is the, which is the Jiva or the Chetana, and which is the Kshetrajna. And Ishvara is the Lord of both these Apara as well as the Para Prakriti. Jiva and Ishvara, the Sambandha is like a Pratibimba Bimba Sambandha, a reflected consciousness. Bimba Bhuta Chaitanya is the universal Chaitanya, the Brahma, Ishvara, and Pratibimbit Chaitanya, the reflected consciousness, is known as the Jiva. And this Prakriti Purusha Viveka, Bhagavan says it is Anadi, there is no beginning. And all the Vikara, all the Karya, all the Guna, they are all created within the Prakriti. And finally, the only difference between the two is that the Prakriti can come to an end by Pralaya, by Atmajnana also. And the Purusha is Ananta. There is never an end to this Purusha. So that is the difference between this Prakriti and Purusha. And in the Sankhya Shastra, these 25 elements of Prakriti and Purusha are described. 24 elements of Prakriti and one is the Purusha. It says the Mula Prakriti, from where everything arises. When there is the creation of this universe, is described from Brahma, how Maya comes, because Maya is a Shakti of the Brahma. It's the Karan of all this Jagata. It is a Trigunatmika, because a Nirguna Brahma cannot produce the Trigunatmika Jagata. And that's why Bhagavan takes help of this Maya Shakti of his own, which is Mama Maya. Bhagavan says this is my Mama Maya Duratyaya. It is very difficult to understand, to cross. And this Maya, Bhagavan takes help and then produces all the Pancha Mahabhuta. And from the Panch Mahabhuta, for the 5 great elements, initially the Prakriti, Vikruti, which is the Shukshma, they are in a subtle form, and on a universal level, they are the Mahat Tattva, the Samashti Ahankara, the Samashti Buddhi, all these, the 7 elements of the Prakriti, Vikruti, they are also Karana, they are also Karya. And then finally the Vikruti happens, these Sukshma Panch Mahabhut becomes Stula. There is a process which is called as Panchikarana, the mixing of these elements, and this is described very clearly in Tattva Bodha, how this mixing happens, what is the proportion, how this mixing happens, and how from the Sukshma Panch Mahabhuta, Stula Panch Mahabhuta develops the 16 elements of the Vikruti, the Dasha, Indriya, the Pancha Mahabhuta, Stula, and one Mana Buddhi. So all this together forms the Vikruti, and the element which is completely different is Prakriti, which is also called as, the Purusha, which is also called as a Na Prakriti, Na Vikruti, which is just one Purusha Tattva, the Shuddha Chaitanya, which is the Jiva or the Chaitanya Tattva. So Bhagavan is describing the Atma, Anatma Viveka here, which is described in Vedanta by several different terms. One is also called the Drak Drashya Viveka. One is a seer and something that is a seen, the subject and the object. So this Viveka, clear Viveka between Jada and Chetana. What is the Jada? What is the Chaitanya Padartha? The difference between the Prakriti and the Purusha, and the difference between the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna, Viveka. All these Viveka are very important. Vedanta describes us that the problem is that there is mixing of these elements in our understanding. We believe that we are a mixture of Atma, Anatma, Jad, Chetan, Prakriti, Purusha, Kshetra, Kshetrajna, and this mixing is the problem, and the solution is to clearly define what is what, and that is what is called as Viveka. Viveka means that discrimination. And it's not in a negative term, but it's in a positive term. How to differentiate what is Kshetra, clearly seeing what is Kshetrajna, what is a Prakriti, what is a Purusha. This clear distinction we must be able to see. Then only we know what is Atma, what is Anatma. And we must see this not only in our individual, it's a Vyashti, but even in a Samashti, how this can be seen. And this is a real knowledge. कार्य कारण कर्तृत्वे हेतु प्रकृति रुच्यते पुरुषः सुख दुःखानां भोक्तृत्वे हेतु रुच्यते. So Bhagavan is telling here to Arjuna that karya karana kartrutve hetu prakriti uchyate. So for the doership feeling is kartrutva. Kartrutva means I am the doer, I am the karta. That feeling, for this feeling of, because this feeling is of the karya karana sanghata. Karya karana sanghata means this conglomeration or collection of body, mind, sense complex. And for this, the hetu means the main reason for this is the prakriti or the maya. That is the reason. And purusha sukha dukkhanam bhoktrutve hetu uchyate. So for the pleasure and pain feeling, the sukha dukkha feeling that we have, the main reason is the purusha. Purusha is the consciousness Chaitanya for that bhoktrutva, because that is the feeling that we feel, that is the something that we know. And for this, the main reason is the purusha or the Chaitanya. So let us understand this, what Bhagavan is trying to tell Arjuna. He says, Jiva is the upadhi. Identification, we identify ourselves with this upadhi, which is the body, mind, sense complex, which is also called the karya karana sanghata, which is called the upadhi in our shastra. And this includes our karya, that is the sudha sharira, the physical body, and it also includes the sukshma sharira, our psychological body, which is also called the karana, because it is through the means through which we do all this sansara karma, whereas the karya is the physical body, is the final product. For all these karya karana utpatti, the prakriti is the hetu, because it all comes from the prakriti. In all this pancha mahabhuta, prakriti, karya karana sanghata develops, and it becomes, and then it works. And then we do all our karma. Our actions also happens in this sanghata, which is the part of the prakriti. So all the actions occur in the prakriti, in this stool plus sukshma sharira, which is also called the karya karana sanghata. And that's why Bhagavan says that all the hetu, the cause for all these action, hetu is prakriti, for all our activity. All the knowing part, the knowledge part, the knowing part, happens in the Purusha or the Chaitanya. And that's why Bhagavan says the hetu for all these feelings that we know, because sukha dukkha is a feeling. It is not an object. It cannot be objectivized, but it's a feeling. So for all these feelings, the hetu, the cause is the Purusha. So this is the distinction that Bhagavan shows. For karya karana sanghata, the prakriti is the hetu. For all the feeling that happens, the Purusha is the hetu. Purusha prakrutistho hi bhunte prakriti jan gunan karanam guna sangosya sadasatyoni janmasu. So Purusha, when it becomes prakrutistha, it comes in close proximity of the prakriti, and then he bhunte prakriti jan gunan, means it knows the gunas of which arise from the prakriti, because we know that all the gunas, they arise from the prakriti, but the knower is the Purusha. And Purusha and Prakriti, they remain in close proximity to each other. Gunasanga asya karanam sat asat yoni janmasu. And this association of the Prakriti and the Purusha is the main reason, the guna is the main reason for the birth of the jiva sat asat yoni, within the sat and the asat yoni. So let us understand what Bhagavan is trying to tell us. He says this Prakriti, the gunas arise from the Prakriti, and the Purusha, they remain in contact with each other, and this Sangha, this proximity of each other, and then ultimately understanding both as our own self creates a root problem. And this association, Bhagavan says, is the root cause of not just the birth, but birth, with the birth starts the samsara. So samsara is our own creation. And this is the cause for our birth in our Sat Yoni and the Asat Yoni. So Sat Yoni is the human beings with the birth where there is a possibility of enlightening, uplifting our own self and to go towards mukti and to get out of this samsara. Asat Yoni is the animals, the other species where there is no such possibility of upliftment or enlightenment. Whereas in humans also, those people who are not trying to uplift themselves, There also can be called as Asat Yoni. So this identification with our body, mind, sense complex, which is also called as Tadatmya in our Shastra, which is Aham Bhav, that I feel that I am this body, I am this mind, I am this soul, I am this prana. And this identification with our Sukshma Sharir, our mind and intellect is very, very strong, very difficult to break. Only with this Vivek, we can come to the end of this Guna Sangha, this assimilation, this root problem, this Sangha. And constantly practicing Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana only can help us to detach ourselves, have that Vivek to know what is what. So we have to go from Aham Karta Bhokta to Aham Akarta Abhokta Atma Swarupa, which is nothing but the Sat Chit and the Ananda Swarupa. Next shloka. Upadrashtanumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwaraha paramatmeti chapyukto dehesmin purusha paraha. So Upadrashta Anumanta. So Bhagavan is describing the Tattva, that it is the Upadrashta, it is the seer, it is the Sakshi, it remains inside and sees everything. Anumanta, it gives permission for everything that is going to happen in this Karya Karana Sanghata, like all the actions, all the thoughts, everything comes only with its permission. Bharta Bhokta Maheshwara, it is illuminates everything, it is the sustainer of everything, it is the knower, it is the Bhokta, and it is Maheshwara, it is the Almighty God. And then Bhagavan says, Paramatma iti api uktaha. Call this, you can call this as Atma, you can call this as Paramatma, it is one and the same. Atma is nothing but the Paramatma. When it is seen in an individual level, it is called Atmana. When it is seen on a universal level, it is called Paramatmana. Asmin dehe purusha paraha. And Bhagavan shows where it is situated, where it is located. What is the address here? It says Asmin dehe, in your deha, here. And here, Asmin means here. You can see it is residing in this deha. In all this deha, it resides in all these bodies. That is the Atma Swarupa that Bhagavan is talking about. Ya evam vetti purusham prakrutim cha gunai saha sarvatha vartamanopi nasa bhuyo vichayate. So Bhagavan is now saying the great benefit of knowing this Atma, our Atma Gnana, Atma, ourself. Ya evam vetti purusham prakriti cha gunai saha. One who knows this clearly, the difference between Purusha, which is Asanga, which is Akarta Swarupa, and Prakriti, where all the karma, karya, karta, guna, everything happens. Sarvatha vartamana api sabhuya na abhijayate. In any situation, he will not be born again and will be eternally free, will get moksha, will get mukti by this clear discrimination. And finally, Bhagavan is showing the Gnana Sadhana. Dhyane natmani pashyanti kechidatmanam atmana Anye sankhena yogena karma yogena chapare. How to walk on this path? Arjuna must have thought that what you are describing, it's very difficult to understand this Atma Gnana. What are the ways I can know this? And Bhagavan is describing this yoga sadhana, how we can achieve this Atma Gnana. Shows the different options which can be decided on the adhikaritva of the disciple. Kechid atmanam atmana dhyanena atmani pashyanti. Some perceive the Atma by meditation, by dhyana yoga. Bhagavan is describing that is done in our purified inner self, Atmana, in our own self, Atmani, and Anye Sankhya Yogena. Some others by Sankhya Yoga, by Vichara, by inquiry, while some others cha apare Karma Yogena, some others can achieve this Atma Swarupa by Karma Yoga. So Bhagavan is talking here of 3 types of sadhana. We will be describing this in more details in the next session. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parah Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.